he and his brother Philip come into my office, and I had an office, it was a tiny little office. Wasn't the entire office where all of us were there was not much bigger than this room right here, and he said, you know, I'm not a professional, so I can't accept prize money, but you know, can I get some reimbursement for my expenses? And I said, absolutely, you can get reimbursements for your expenses. And so I said, have you kept track of how much money you spent on your way down here while you were here, and figure out how much you're going to spend on your way home? And he said, well, we really haven't kept track of that. So I said, well, that's not a problem. I said, here's a yellow pad and a pencil, and you guys, he was with his brother Philip, said, you guys sit down there in this chair and just figure it out. Do it to the best of your recollection, what, you know, what these expenses are. So they sit there, and they're there for, it seemed like an hour, but I'm sure it was only like 10 minutes or so. And they're just kind of, they're talking between themselves. And so they come over and say, well, you know, this is what we think it is. And they presented me with something. It was, I don't remember the exact amount, but it was something like $300 or $400 or something like that, $300 something. And that, at that time, second round prize money in the tournament was $1,000. Not a lot of money by today's standards, but in those days, you know, that was quite good money. $1,000 to be in the second round of the tournament. Make a long story short, I gave him the full $1,000. Okay, I mean, I just said, well, this has got to be that, and then I upped everything to make sure that they got $1,000. Now they know, and they knew that that wasn't true, but it, you know, so they're kind of sitting there like, we like it, but you know, they're feeling a little guilty. There's a little guilt look on their faces. And so I then say to Dee Dee, you know, who was my assistant then, I said, Dee Dee, just write him a check for $1,000, and you know, that's it. And I left him there. Then the sequel to that is some years thereafter. It's only about 4 or 5, I think it was about 4 years thereafter. Andre is now one of the best players in the world, and he gets to the finals of the last championships of the year, which is the ATP finals, the Masters. Used to call it the Masters at the time. And he's playing in Frankfurt against against Stefan Edberg in the finals. He's playing Stefan in the final, and they play a sensational 5-set match. Andre wins, and the winner for that tournament won $1 million. It was one of the first $1 million checks given in the sport. And so the next morning after Andre, we watched, my wife and I watched them the entire match, and the next morning when we were flying back to California, we run into them at the airport at the Lufthansa terminal, the Lufthansa lounge. And so I see them, and so I go, hey, Andre, Philip, you know, Andre, congratulations, what a great match you played yesterday. And Andre says to me, he says, God, it's amazing that you walked in here. I said, because we were just talking about you. And I said, why? You know, so he said, well, you remember way back then when you gave us that $1,000? And I said, oh, okay, yeah, you know, and actually I remember it now because they reminded me then. Otherwise I probably would have forgotten about it. And he said, well, that $1,000 meant more to us than the $1 million we just won yesterday. And that really kind of touched me, you know, and I said, you know, wow. And he told me a lot about Andre, you know, and told me that he remembers and that he's appreciative, and you know, I didn't know how to answer that.